Hello everyone and welcome back to the Hammered Corner. In today's video, I'll be showing you a portrait issue coin from each Tudor monarch. But just before we get into today's video, be sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe so you never miss a video here on the channel. Now you may remember a video I posted late last year where I had completed my first coin collecting milestone of purchasing a coin from the reign of George I, George II and George III. Well, alongside this goal, I also was on a mission to obtain a portrait issue coin from the reign of each monarch of the Tudor dynasty. This is one of my greatest achievements to date, as it took me almost 19 months to achieve this from when I first began collecting. And after purchasing a Henry VII groat, I couldn't be happier. When I first began collecting, just like many new collectors out there, the vast and daunting aspect of wondering where to start learning and collecting starting to creep over me. So after a few months of scanning the groups of all sorts of coins, I decided that I would begin collecting coins from reigns I was familiar with and learned a lot about when I was at school. So after restarting my collection in October 2020, this goal was in full swing, and now I'm very proud to show them to you all here today. So, we will begin today's video in ascending chronological order, starting with the newest and currently my most favourite out of the five, my Henry VII groat. Now this coin was the last to complete this milestone and was a coin I was always on the lookout for, and I can't even begin to tell you how many times I was outbid on eBay and the Facebook groups as the prices went too high to obtain one. These might be one of the hardest Tudor coins to find an example of, that and Henry VIII. But I managed to snag this example for £280 from a dealer I have purchased from early last year on eBay. Henry VII proclaimed the throne of England after defeating Richard III at the Battle of Bosworth. And it was Henry who introduced the gold pound, or as we know it, the gold sovereign. He lived a life trying to mould a dynasty where many believed he did not hold a strong claim to the throne. So coins were the strongest way to show people that he was there to stay. Incredibly too, this coin was the first issue to implement a realistic portrait, steering away from the medieval design that had been adapted and implemented over the previous 200 years. So now we get to see the sovereign facing right with the cross-crosslet mint mark. And because of this mint mark, we know that this coin was minted between 1504 and 1505, as we can match it to the date in the Sphinx book. And for the very first time, we see the Tudor shield on the reverse, that would remain the same on each coin for the next 100 years. Henry Tudor was very involved in his finances, as he believed that as long as he had money, he had the strongest chance of keeping his claim to the throne. And there are lots of historical records in the British Museum that have records of Henry VII himself documenting transactions of lots of things during his reign, even importing birds from Hungary, for example. And apart from the very rare testoon, that were thought to be trial pieces for a much larger denomination of coin, the groat was the largest coin in circulation. So I am extremely happy to add this example to my collection, and this one is a definite keeper. Second in the line of succession, we have Henry's second surviving son, Henry VIII. Now there shouldn't be any need to introduce Henry, but for those who are new to the hobby, Henry VIII succeeded his father, and his first coinage used the same design as his father, with a slight change in legend from Henry VII to Henry VIII. The coin on screen was minted during the third coinage, of which we see a worn yet recognisable bust of the sovereign that we associate with what he looks like today. By this point in history, the ongoing wars with Scotland and France and his extravagant Tudor lifestyle meant that instead of increasing national taxes, Henry decided to mint coins that were 1/6 to 1/4 of its original intrinsic value, and make them using more base metal. So he tried to mint coins and pass them as silver, whilst pocketing the silver and replacing it with copper. But once they became so debased, the silver coating would disappear and his coppery nose would begin to show, as it was the highest part of the coin. This is why he is known as Old Copper Nose. Not the best example as far as coins go, but for a very poor issue of coinage, I'm very happy to have a coin from the infamous king. So once Henry VIII died, he passed the crown down to his son Edward VI, known as the Boy King. He was only 15 years old when he died, dying of tuberculosis, and during his reign, the power was passed to a council of regency until he would have come of age. But Edward Seymour, the king's uncle, hatched his plan to make England a truly Protestant state. Now the first and second issue of Edward's coinage followed his father's footsteps in how debased they were, so early issues are very worn, coppery and scarce. The coin on screen was minted during the fine issue period, issuing the first ever shilling that replaced the not very successful testoon. And this is the denomination that was worth 12 pence, as denoted by the XII Roman numerals, and became a staple of currency for the next 400 years. We have a crown-facing bust of the young king, the new addition of the Tudor rose to the left of the bust, and these shillings always seem to have a perfectly round flan, and I rarely see a clipped Edward VI shilling, if ever. There are a couple of bust varieties of this fine issue shilling, so there are a few varieties to research into if this area is of interest to you. The coin always reminds me of my good friend and fellow numismatist Robert Fox, who is a passionate and avid Edward VI collector, so it's a lovely coin to have for both numismatic and sentimental reasons. We then move on to his sister Queen Mary, who took the throne from the 9-day Queen, Lady Jane Grey, with relative ease and great support. We now see the monarch looking left, with a very unique lettering style that makes Mary's coinage very distinct, especially when worn examples are found detecting. We still have the Tudor shield, but we now have a newly adopted legend, changing from the "I have made God my helper" to "Truth is the daughter of time." And Mary had a real time reigning as a Catholic after years of the Protestant Reformation. This issue was only minted for 1 year during 1553 to 54, before she married the Philip of Spain. So although these were only minted for a year, they're not too uncommon that they're hard to pick one up, but they do carry a higher price tag compared to her successor, Queen Elizabeth. Now, I've posted a bit about Queen Elizabeth's reign here on the channel before, so you may know already that by the time she took the throne, she inherited a financial crisis. She took it upon herself to change that, and to reinforce relationships and trust with foreign merchants who wouldn't accept English currency of her predecessors because of the Great Debasement. So she recalled all of the coins to be brought to the mint, and she issued coins to the Royal Standard finesse of silver, and even made a profit of £50,000, which in 2021 equates to a whopping £26 million. So as an overview of all the coins side by side, you can see how beautiful and complex the Tudor coinage really is, and how lucky we are as numismatists to collect, own and study pieces of our economic history that we can only read about in stories and historical writing. We see the start of the Renaissance period, where the realistic portraiture began, how they then implemented the front-facing realistic design, and how the side profiles came back during Mary and Elizabeth's reign. So I really hope you enjoyed today's episode, looking into my second numismatic milestone on the channel. Be sure to let me know what you think of my coins and my collection, whether you have the same goals, or whether you've completed it already. I look forward to conversing with you on the topic down in the comments. And thank you all for watching, and as always, keep collecting!